Good afternoon, folks. It is a hot one, but I'm willing to put up with the heat, being live on location down here in Leominster, Massachusetts at the Johnny R.O. Veteran Memorial Park, and episode 69, June 13th, 2020. Here to discuss, we discuss comedians. We're going to be discussing an American guy, Tim Allen, Detroit guy. As always, Final Clown Podcast brought to you by G Vegas Buffalo Sauce. For the spicy, sweet, savory taste at game time, there's only one G Vegas. Go to www.gvegas.webs.com and order some up, get it delivered to your house. Good stuff. And hey, we talk comedy, we talk comedians, and every now and then, you know, we talk about other stuff because it's a podcast. You can talk about whatever you want. And figured it's summertime, I'll get out of the studio, start doing some on-location podcasts about comedians. And today I was going to come down to Leominster, Mass, and go up to Johnny Appleseed Lane, and they got like this little tiny log cabin memorial set up to where Johnny Appleseed used to live. And they're doing some construction right next to it, so I couldn't do that. Otherwise, you would have heard all the construction sounds. So I drive to the end of Johnny Appleseed Lane. I've always wanted to check out the Veteran Park, and I never have. And it was a young man from Leominster who lost his life in Iraq. And I've always drove by here a bunch of times, and I never had. It only takes a few seconds to walk through it. But figured today, you know what? I'm in the area, I'll walk through. And I got to admit, I got choked up a little bit because I remember when it happened that, you know, they had his body viewing on at City Hall, and all the veterans could come in and give their respects to. He gave his life for our freedom. And you know, walking through here, they got you know, the four statues here for the four people who were driving the tank. He was one of them. They got the tank to memorialize him. They got a statue down the way with his brother actually posed for the statue in military gear, looking over the stone where they lost their lives. It's a replica of the stone they made in Iraq with a picture of the actual stone next to it in Iraq. And to get through, there's two cement walls you got to walk through. And as I was walking through there, they had a picture of the people from Massachusetts, the soldiers who gave their lives to fight for our freedom. And as I was looking at them, I could see there were black soldiers, there were white soldiers, there were Spanish-American soldiers, just soldiers from every race. And I thought to myself, do any of these lives matter less? They all gave their life, you know, to fight for our freedom. You know, does any of their sacrifices mean more than any of the other sacrifices, the color of the skin? Absolutely not, okay? And I thought it was an important thing on what's going on with all the riots and the Black Lives Matter stuff, and I thought it was important, you know, I to point that out, where, you know, Martin Luther King once said, you know, judge a man by the content of his character and not the color of his skin. Okay, so there's good and bad in every race, okay? That doesn't mean all race is good and all race is bad because of the color of skin. There's good and bad in every race, and I think, you know, these guys fought for our freedom, you know, to live in a free country and do what you want and respect each other. And I think certainly, you know, if we're killing people because of their race, or if we're rioting and killing people back, where does the hate end? You know, I mean, the hate's got to stop somewhere, and hopefully, you know, I talk about it, other people talk about it somewhere. The hate's got to stop, okay? And who's the first person to stand up and say, I'm going to stop the hate, okay? Because that's the person that's going to make a difference. You know, Martin Luther King, he had some of the best sayings, you know, ones that stuck in my head. You know, we had all better start learning how to live together as brothers, or we can all perish together as fools, okay? You know, darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Well, hate can't drive out hate, only love can do that. You want to beat this thing, you want to, you know, end discrimination, then we all better start respecting each other. And that's every race better start respecting every other race. Because you know what? There are no black soldiers, there are no Spanish soldiers, there are no white soldiers. There's just soldiers. And they gave our lives for our freedom. And if we're killing each other, well, we're really shitting on what these people died for, man, okay? So let's respect what they died for instead of, you know, making the situation worse. Let's spread some love and not hate, okay? And I understand, you know, that it's a very passionate subject, and sometimes people, the passion gets the best of them, and you know, sometimes you got to ask yourself, you know, hey, am I doing this in a positive way or a negative way? How am I getting my point across? And certainly doing it in a negative way, sometimes that's the only way you can be heard, but sometimes you got to rise above that. So let's all rise above it. Let's talk about some American stuff, like this American guy, Mr. Timothy Allen Dick, better known as stage name Tim Allen. I guess he dropped the last name Dick because, you know, who wants to go on and be called a dick in comedy, right? I mean, if you're outside of comedy, you can be called Dick. It's perfect, okay? In comedy, you're going to get harassed for that. So he went with his middle name, Tim Allen. Known best for Tim the Toolman Taylor on ABC's Home Improvement. Ran 1991 to 99. After that, he had another show, Last Man Standing, on ABC. Later picked up by Fox, playing Mike Baxter. One of my personal favorites, he was the voice of Buzz Lightyear in the Toy Story franchise. The Santa Claus trilogy, you know, you make one movie about something's good. If they demand a second one, it's good. When you get into a trilogy, you know you've hit home run right there, okay? It's like Back to the Future, Star Wars. How many movies get a trilogy, okay? That's when people are demanding you. They want more. They want more. You hit a home run. Some other, you know, less popular. Those are his big ones. I mean, not they were bombs, but they were less popular. For Richer or Poorer, Jungle to Jungle, Galaxy Quest, Big Trouble, Christmas with the Cranks, The Shaggy Dog, Wild Hogs, Red Belt, and Crazy on the Outside. How did he get started? In high school, he was in theater and music, so he had a little bit of a background in high school getting started. Went to Michigan State, where he was on radio there. It was student radio. And after doing student radio in 1975 on a dare from his friends, he did a comedy night. So I guess, you know, I remember I went to a comedy club in Boston when I first got started. And it was one of the bigger comedy clubs in Boston, okay? But if you go on an off night, it was right next to the college, and it's like, you got a lot of college kids in there were goofing around. Like, we weren't sure, like, oh, this is Boston, man. It's got to be the top of the top comics. We don't go there until we're ready. Then I went up there just to watch, and it's like, half these kids weren't ready. They were just college kids goofing around, man. So don't let the big skitty scare you, okay? If you're doing good in your local hometown, you're probably good enough for the big city. Just don't go up there and try to change yourself. You remember what made them laugh in the little city. That's the same thing that's going to make them laugh in the big city. So I guess he started doing comedy after a dare from friends. He had a niche for it. He gained recognition. He started doing local commercials and cable shows in Detroit. And I guess, you know, that was getting the ball rolling. He got held up a little bit on a 1978. He was arrested at the airport in possession of over 650 grams of cocaine, which that's not personal use. You got 650 grams, you're dealing cocaine. That's not a habit. That's a business right there, okay? He pled guilty. Whoa, here comes the wind, and I guess it's knocking over a thing here. He pled guilty and provided the names of the dealers that he was in association with. And for the plea bargain, he got 3 to 7 years in jail, which, you know, had he not made the plea agreement, he would have faced life because there was some serious drug trafficking charges. He was paroled in 1981, so he spent 2 years and 4 months in jail. And who knew Tim the Toolman Taylor was a hardened, convicted criminal who spent a couple of years in jail? I would have never guessed that, but that's his story, man. So, but it shows, hey, you can mess up in life and you can come back, you know? Do you learn your lesson or do you never learn your lesson? I guess that's the question right there. So he came out, man, kept doing what he's doing in the comedy thing. He returned to comedy by moving to LA because, you know, there's only so much you can accomplish locally, okay? You can be at the top of the local game, but at some point, you know, if you want to do mainstream comedy, you got to hit where it is, and that's a big city, LA, New York. Houston, Chicago, places like that. They say Boston. Boston's a great mecca for comedy. It's a lot of opportunity in Boston, where I've heard from comics who went to the big cities, not as much opportunity out there. You know, you get ready in places like Boston, then you go to New York when you're ready, okay? You got to be at the top of your game out there. Let's see. He returned to comedy at the LA Comedy Store, and hey, we know all about the Comedy Store. That's the famed place out there in LA. From his performances there, it led to some late night specials and some comedy specials that he did of his own. Then, you know, he was given his shot. You know, if you get into the Comedy Store, you're regular at the Comedy Store, the biggest names are in the business are watching you, and they're looking for content. They're looking for things to do. They gave him his shot, and it was with Home Improvement. Man, he knocked it out of the park. And I guess Home Improvement, that was off. He had the you know, his famous routine from comedy was how men, you know, they get jacked up to put tools in their shed, and it was all this big routine about men and tools and being like cavemen. Ooh, tool, yeah. Oh. It was a funny ass routine. They turned it into a sitcom, and boy, they hit a home run with that thing. At the same time, he was doing Home Improvement. He put out a film, The Santa Claus, with Disney. It became one of Disney's top grossing films at the same time that Home Improvement was one of the top television shows on TV. So he's got one of the top films, he's got one of the top TV shows. You think that'd be enough? No, you go for it. New York Times put him on their top list, the #1 book at the same time. Don't stand too close to a naked man. And, you know, you're at the top of your game. You got the top book, you got the top movie, you got the top TV show. You got a loud motorcycle going by, you can't hear nothing on the podcast. But you're at the top of the game. How much money are you going to make? He was making $1.25 million an episode on Home Improvement. That's what they were paying him to stay on that show. You know why? Because people are tuning in. People are tuning in, they'll pay you because they're making money, okay? That led to one of my personal favorites, 1995. He voiced Buzz Lightyear in the Pixar franchise Toy Story, along with Tom Hanks. You're working with Tom Hanks, one of the greatest actors of all time. That's saying something right there, man. And the reason it holds a special place in my heart, when my son was young, they start watching cartoons, you know. Then they get into the movies, and Buzz Lightyear, that was the first movie that me and him really bonded together, where he really got into that movie. It's like that was his favorite movie. I don't know how many times I watched it with him, but that was one of his first favorite movie that we watched together as him as a kid. So for that reason, it always holds a special place in my heart. But hey, you're working with Disney, you're working with Pixar, you're working with Tom Hanks. These are all the top names in the business. You're at the top of your game. 1997 led to Toy Story 2. Then again, already fell off track. Another black eye on his resume. The same year in 1997, he was arrested for a DUI in Michigan. His blood alcohol level was double the legal limit for driving in a car. Which I guess if you're a big star, man, money talks. Because I don't know, after the drug, you know, dealing the drug thing, they throw anybody else away. He got a year probation and was ordered to go to court-ordered rehab. And hopefully go to rehab, man, okay? Because I had a best friend and he had a drinking problem. And he went to rehab once and beat it, fell off track again. And he didn't have it in him to go to rehab again. And he ended up committing suicide, man. That's a mean way to leave. I mean, get help. If you need help, please go get it. 1999, that led to Galaxy Quest, which that was kind of a cult classic, and I love the idea of it. And it started out good, and then it kind of lost me, and then at the end, it kind of just got too goofy for me. Where it became, I understand why it's a cult classic, because it's like the airplane movies. You know, they were so goofy, you had to love them. It was kind of one of those. It was so goofy. But I mean, these Comic-Cons are big things to do a movie paying tribute to the Comic-Cons. I guess that's what the kids of these days had to ask for, but it was a little bit too goofy for me, you know. But I enjoyed watching it once. It wasn't something I'd watch again, but it was definitely good. Now you're at the top of the game. He narrated some Pure Michigan commercials, so even at the top of his game, you never forget where he came from. He's a Detroit guy. I remember when he did Tim the Toolman Taylor on Home Improvement, the director that they wanted to get for the role, he was the same director that directed the Roseanne Barr show, Roseanne, and he had so much trouble with Roseanne, he said he didn't have it in him to like do another sitcom, and Tim took him out to dinner. They really hit it off because they were both from Detroit. They decided, hey, we're a couple of Detroit guys, we're going to get along, so he decided to do Tool Time, and it went on to be a great hit, so good for them. I guess he said, you're not going to have the problems with me, you had Roseanne, let's go do it. He did some stand-up comedy to provoke Crazy on the Outside. That was a film that he directed himself. So he took a little, hey, you've done everything else, why not try directing, you know? That's the thing. When you're at the top of the game, you can do whatever you want. You can pick and choose. They'll let you do what you want, so that's always cool. He hosted the TV Land Awards. Did a return to ABC, as we mentioned, after Tool Time with Last Man Standing. Lasted 6 seasons. It was canceled by ABC. Then Fox TV picked it up for another season, so you know, they still wanted to get a piece of this guy because he was so popular, which hey, that's what sells. You know why you pick the big names? Because that's what sells tickets. He went over to Netflix with the El Camino Christmas in 2017, and I think Netflix, man, they're offering big money. Eddie Murphy's return, Dave Chappelle, the top names in comedy, man. You know, it was It used to be specials, then it was Comedy Central, and now Netflix is really taking over the whole comedy scene where they're paying big bucks. They want to be the name associated with big comedians. I got to pay tribute. I got to say that he was on Rodney Dangerfield's Young Comedian Specials, and that was where you first, heard about the whole Tool Man routine, which eventually turned into a TV show. And I got to say, Rodney, man, hats off to him. He brought us the next generation of comics. As great a comic as he was the guy who brought us Tim the Tool Man, the Sam Kinnis's, the Andrew Dice Clays, the Roseanne Barrs, on and on and on, the Lenny Clarks, man. It's like just all the big names that we do today. And Tim was one of the guys. And I got the inside scoop because I am friends with people, and I'll give it to you. And they actually said there was one Rodney Dangerfield special where he already had the people on for the special. Then he went and saw Sam Kinison and was so blown away by Sam he wanted to put him on the special, but he had to bump somebody to do it. And they never say who got bumped. Well, Tim the Tool Man, he was the guy who got bumped from that special, but Rodney went back and gave Tim a chance on a future special, so he didn't forget about him even though he bumped him from one. So that was cool. All right, let's go see what the fans had to say. They had a little bit to chime in about Tim the Tool Man Taylor, and if I can see what they're talking about out here in the sun, which is blazing heat. I feel like I'm in the Iraqi desert. They chose a good place to put up this memorial because it's as hot as Iraq because, man, they got no shade here. So I'm baking. That's what I give up to give you guys a good podcast. Let's see what the fans have to say about Tim the Tool Man. Michael Buster McMahon chimes in, Galaxy Quest was a very nice balance of spoof and tribute to the sci-fi genre. Don't know how much of the credit he deserves for that, but he was the lead in it, so I'll go with that. And that's a good point, man. I mean, there were a lot of actors in that movie. The subject, he had a great subject matter, but he was the lead guy. And I know on Home Improvement, the woman who played the wife, that was part of the demise of the show, where she thought, I'm doing just as much work as Tim. Why is he getting paid so much more than me? And she wanted to get paid as much as him. Well, there's only so much money to go around, and the lead actor is going to get it. And it was a show based around his comedy, but she wanted the same money as him because she felt she was putting in just as much work, and that was part of the demise of the show. Galaxy Quest, like I said, it was a good tribute to a cult of of sci-fi people. I mean, sci-fi is a big thing with the Comic-Cons, and they paid tribute to that, tapped into that audience. Genius idea. Louis Pablum when he got busted for selling crack. Okay, yeah, ha ha ha. No, my real favorite was the highly what is that? The highly underrated movie, Big Trouble, okay? So, I guess Big Trouble was one of his favorites where, sometimes you have that where a not so popular movie is your favorite, where everybody else is liking the big mainstream one, but they get this little unheard of movie that you love to hear about, man, and it's always good when you have cult classics. Let's see, Christina Marie, he wrote to me on Twitter once when I said I love Last Man Standing. It may not have been much, but I never expected a response. And yeah, I guess. Who think, Tim the Tool Man Taylor would keep track of his Twitter account and actually, respond back to you, I mean, always cool when, people pay big bucks at these Comic-Cons just to get a picture with a fan, So when someone you admire takes a few seconds out of the day to acknowledge that you're a fan of theirs, that's cool because it shows they didn't forget where they came from. Eddie Jarvis, right before he snitched, and I guess... Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know how he made it 2.5 years in prison, because in prison, if you're a snitch, they don't like that stuff, man. They beat up on you. But you come up with a story. I'm in here for speeding tickets. Yeah, that's what I did. You don't tell them the truth, because you get your ass kicked in prison telling the truth. Let's see. John Eric wrote in, every time he came to L.A. Woo! All right. I went with him for coffee. Really good man, can pull off a clean set, no problem. He's a class act. And yeah, he did it clean, man. I'll tell you, he wasn't a dirty guy. He came up with the Tool Man routine. It was crystal clean, and it was funny as heck. And they say it's a lot easier to make a dirty clean act dirty than it is to make a dirty act clean. So if you can go on and on and on with clean material, you'll work. And this guy worked, and because you're hitting every audience. Only a certain amount of people like dirty comedy, but everybody can relate to clean comedy, and that's why you'll always work if you do clean comedy. If you enjoy doing dirty comedy, then you'll settle for less people and do what you got to do, so it's all what you want to do in life. You got to enjoy life. Money isn't everything, okay? But if you want to work, do clean comedy. Let's see. Drew Carson wrote in. Is he dead or something? That seems to be the going joke, like you have to be dead to have an opinion on someone. Yeah, you heard it on Dennis Wirth's fucking podcast first, sure. Okay, get a life, okay? Richard Kennedy, The Santa Claus Was All Right. Yeah, well, one of the top grossing films of that year, I'd say it was all right, sure. Patrick Ford, backstage at Home Improvement with my old business partner, who was the only friend to visit him in prison. So I guess this guy's friend was the guy who was Tim Allen's friend and the only guy who visited him while he was in prison. So that's a real friend, okay? Because everybody likes you when you're on top. When you're on the bottom, that's when you know who your friends are. And I say that in comedy, you know. When I got some big shows going on, everybody's my friend. When I got no shows going on, I don't hear jack shit from nobody, you know. A couple of my real friends I hear from. Well, guess who Dennis remembers when he fucking gets his big shows? Yeah, the people who didn't forget him when he had nothing going on. So good for him right there. Stephen Black here, shared a cell for a while. Cool guy. Just kidding. Stephen Black is a straight guy. He's never been to jail, okay? I've been to jail, folks. I ain't gonna lie to you. Small stuff. Weekend trip, okay? Nothing big. I've been to jail. Not a hardened criminal, nothing, okay? I waved to some women. You can't wave to people. You know. Had some bad divorces, you know. Let's see. P.J. Brown. When I didn't realize how much he sucked off stage and off screen. I don't know. P.J. had a bad experience with him. You know, I said, you know, don't forget where you came from. At the same time, you know, you can't be, you know, sneaking into this guy's house and hiding out in the bathroom just to meet him either, okay? There's a fine line you got to meet somewhere, okay? So, hey, he's human, you know, even though you're a star, you think you're not human. They have their good days, they have their bad days. You know, if you had a bad experience, that don't mean that's the guy he is. You know, we all have our good and bad days. Howie Jones, Galaxy Quest. As I said, a cult classic keeps popping up. Ned Rice, opening for him at Laugh Tracks, the stand-up comedy show at Michigan Union in the 1980s. And yeah, man, whenever you get a chance to open up for a big name like that, it's a great one to have on your resume. Why not? Michael Jacob, The Santa Claus. Yeah, it's always a safe move. I always said doing cartoons is a safe move because the kids are going to go out to see them. Well, doing holiday specials, those are also a safe move because the holidays, that's what people are looking to get in the spirit, looking to watch them. So very good move by him right there. Let's see. Ted Twyman. I saw him at a party in Hollywood once. Didn't talk to him, but Sabrina the Teenage Witch stood right next to me for a minute. Also, Tim Allen was at my work shopping. Didn't talk to him then either. I figure someone like him, he's heard it all before. Still cool seeing big stars out in the wild. So I guess, yeah, if you were grocery shopping in a regular grocery store in L.A. and Tim Allen was grocery shopping right next to you, you wouldn't expect that, but I remember Kobe Bryant once saying people were surprised he got his own gas. Like, you get your own gas? He's like, yeah, I drive a car. I got to put gas in. You know, the things you think about stars, what they do and don't do, you know. But Tim the Tool Man Taylor, man, he had his ups, he had his downs, but he gave us a lot of memories, man, and, you know, learned his lesson. He made some mistakes in life, and I'll ask you, who's led the perfect life? Who's never made one mistake in life? We've all made mistakes. Do you learn your lessons? Do you come back? Do you be a better people, okay? You see this tribute behind me right here? You see these 4 statues right here? These guys gave up their lives for our freedom. Now, learn our lesson. Let's stop these riots. Let's stop, you know, judging people on the content of the color of their skin, and let's all start getting along, and let's all start loving each other. Let's make the world a better place and show that these guys didn't die for nothing, giving us our freedom, okay? I'm in Leominster, Massachusetts. I am at the Johnny Rowe Veteran Memorial Park, paying tribute here, man. And this is Funny Like a Clown Podcast, and I will leave you the words of Martin Luther King. We had all better start learning how to live together as brothers, or we can all die together as fools. Good night.